we go.
Yep.
Welcome. It is 5/31/2022. We are 30 days from being halfway through this glorious year. Welcome. This is I think this is our 6th week on fifth week. We made it through 3 chapters of The Compound Effect with Daren Hardy. I do want to go, since it worked so well last time, I want to jump to the very end of the chapter and look at his action steps. 1, build your bookend morning and evening routines. Anybody have morning and evening routines? Yeah, I have two alarms that go off on my phone. One at 8:35 and one at 9:05. Tell me to go towards the bed. 8:35, go towards bed, and 9:05, get in bed. Yeah, and I should change this to say, are you in bed? It's helped my morning routine a lot. Then he says, list 3 areas of life in which you are not consistent enough. What has this inconsistently cost you in life thus far? Make a declaration to stay steadfast in your new commitment to consistency. And then 3, on your rhythm register, write down a half dozen key behaviors relevant to your new goals. These should be behaviors you want to establish a rhythm with and eventually create momentum. The BigMo. You know, John Maxwell and his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. One of those is the BigMo. Actually, Tom, I think he changed it in his 25-year edition. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. I might look that up to see. So anyway, what he says here. Any comments? Anything that just jumped out at you? Yep. On page 93, he talks about adopting any changes the same way. You get started by taking one small step, one action at a time. Progress is slow, but once a newly formed habit is kicked in, BigMo joins the party. He jumps down further and he says it's like a rocket launches. A space shuttle uses more fuel during the first few minutes of its flight than it does the rest of the entire trip. Why? Because it has to break free from the pull of gravity. The hard part is getting off the ground. On 94, ever wonder why successful people tend to get more successful? The rich get richer, the happier get happier, and the lucky get luckier. They've got BigMo. When it rains, it pours. Anybody got something to speak into that about? Or tell me what's he talking about here?
Can you put that in question form, sir?
What's he looking at? What's he talking about?
What part are you on right now?
I'm now on page 94.
I mean, I guess from my viewpoint, Danny, I think the toughest part of the change, I mean, I had someone tell me this years ago, it wasn't my idea, but it's like breaking the inertia. You know, it's hard to move something like that first couple inches. But once you get going, you can really build on the progress. But I mean, creating inertia, I mean, it can be difficult in some of these organizations.
Well, I mean, even like in business, a lot of our businesses, I mean, it takes a lot to get started, you know. Right. I mean, for insurance, you know, the first few years sucks. I mean, you don't get many renewals until after the first year. You don't get any renewals, and then it takes a while to get your name out there and all that stuff. I mean, now 2 years of COVID, I don't now barely network at all. I mean, I get phone calls all the time. You get phone calls all the time wanting insurance, and which is great, but it's just that would have never happened 3 or 4 years ago. So well, it's just building up that inertia, that momentum that to.
I mean, like a new product launch. I've worked with people that launch a new product, and I mean, you don't even know if there's market acceptance. You think there is based on research, but you'd be wrong, correct? So just the inertia of getting that going, you spend a lot of brain time, investment, and then money to get that going. And it could be a huge success, mediocre, or complete, failure. Thinking about new Coke 30 years ago. I mean, that was like an abject failure
Right.
from a huge company that had virtually unlimited resources.
Exactly. Yeah, New Coke's probably the worst product launch ever.
So he says here that how do you get BigMo to pay you a visit? He says you build up to it. You get into the groove or the zone by doing the things we've covered so far, making new choices based on goals and core values, putting those choices to work through new positive behaviors, repeating those healthy actions long enough to establish new habits. 4, building routines and rhythms into your daily disciplines. 5, staying consistent over a long period of time. So jump over to page 97. And he talks for 3 pages about routine power. Some of these intentions fail because we don't have a system of execution. When it comes down to it, your new attitudes and behaviors must be incorporated into your monthly, weekly, and daily routines to affect any real positive change. A routine is something you do every day without fail, so that eventually, like brushing your teeth and putting on your seatbelt, you do it without a conscious thought. Anybody got a routine right now they didn't have 5 years ago? Ernie, when did you start walking?
Probably somewhere around there. Maybe
I know.
4.
Yeah, I know with my exercise and getting that part of my daily routine, I started about 7, 8 years ago, and it was hard. It was real hard, and now it's one of those things that I feel weird if I don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've added a couple more things here the last few weeks, and anyway, just working on it, becoming. I'm adding it. It's more of a discipline right now because it's not a routine yet. Anybody ever tried to count calories? Yeah.
No.
I did it for 7 days in a row yesterday. Actually through Sunday was my 7th. My weeks I run them Monday through Sunday, and it was my first time I was able to stay with it and recorded all my calories for the week. But it was, I did it every night or the first thing in the morning. Trying to do it every night, but I missed it, so I caught up on it the next morning. Love this story in here about Jack Nicklaus and about Nicklaus's routine, and then the one about Greg Norman. Heard you're a golfer, watch golf, don't you? I don't. I looked this up last year when I went through this book. I looked this up, and there was a whole lot out there about Greg Norman during his collapse in the '96 Masters. There, as they tell it on page 98. as he went along there on that last round, his pre-shot routine got faster and faster as the round progresses, and just he didn't stay in routine. Watched the Astros ball game yesterday, and all the players. I was thinking about this, and all the players, they with their wristbands, their gloves, and they have the routine that they go through every time. I mean, I say Altuve. They say,
Yeah.
Man, he's got a routine. Yeah. Wow, he's got a routine. They all do. Most of them do.
You should be watching the Rangers. Why are you watching the Astros? Come on.
Hardy, did you have a routine?
I don't remember. Not really.
That's why
My-
you make. That's it.
My routine was to crowd the plate, stay in the batter's box and not move once I got in there.
How'd that work out for you?
Fine.
Until it didn't.
I mean, I didn't move. I stood there and waited for the next pitch. I didn't put a foot out. I didn't look back at the catcher. I just stood there in hitting position because that's the way I batted. Intimidate the pitcher.
Even if they were pitching at you, Hardy?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
That everybody looks at stuff on TV and thinks that the batter's always thinking about getting beamed or thinking about he's not. That happens. But when you crowd the plate, you take the pitcher out of his routine because he gets nervous about pitching inside, and that's the whole point. And if he's not nervous about pitching inside, then you, the batter, are in trouble.
Yes, you are.
You're gonna be limping or laying on the ground going to first base. Either way.
So he says here, and this is probably of all of his bold subchapter titles, this is maybe the shortest one. He says, book in your days. The key to becoming world-class in your endeavors is to build your performance around world-class routines. It can be difficult, even futile, to predict or control what will show up in the middle of your workday, but you can almost always control how your day starts and ends. I have routines for both. I'll share aspects of each of these to give you some ideas and to help you better understand the power and importance of building your new behaviors into disciplined routines. Starting with my goals in mind, I design my behaviors and routines accordingly. Perhaps as I share some of what works for me, you'll identify strategies you'll like.
Danny, I'm in the process. The consistency for me is these classes I'm developing to take all the brain knowledge I have and get it into a class and translate all that into a class and then have it actually formatted where it's teachable. It's very mundane, very. And because of that, I sometimes just look at it and go, oh man, I don't want to write those instructions down today. I don't feel like putting that into an outline yet. So, because it's really mundane. Really, really.
Well, because Hardy,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's what I'm saying, because then I have to go back and remember I do know it. So, where do I go with this? How simple do I make it? Because what I may know may be up here.
Right.
So I understand this task thing. So my consistency thing is to start putting a deadline goal on my classes. In other words, I was thinking about this the other night. 2 months from now, I'm going to have my this class done, and I'm going to work out how much time I need to spend on a day to make that happen, to get the slideshow presentation done, to get the questionnaire, the workbook done for my folks that sign up. So yeah, been very difficult because
Danny,
lazy's part of that.
What's that, Hardy?
I said lazy's part of that.
Yeah, John.
Dan, do you have end of day routine that relates to your actual tasks at work? I know you mentioned, go to bed at a certain time, get ready to go to bed, but you have something where you go, no matter what that is, I'm done for today.
Yeah,
Does that exist for you?
yeah, I have. Let me pull it up and see if I can show it to you. That shows to be an hour long, but it's not quite that. And but if that's, see that right there, it says go upstairs.
Okay.
That's
Right.
my, and I might have, and that's done that way because I've really been trying to find a networking event at the end of the day. So that's picked for when I come home, then I'm networking, I need to go upstairs. But, or if I'm at home, and like today at 5 o'clock, I might, between 5 and 5:30, I might run over here to the gym. But at 7 o'clock, I need to come upstairs and take a look at my desk, shut my computer down, be sure I hadn't left any emails up and running. And I want to clean my desk so that I come up here in the morning, I've got a clean desk to start off with. That's kind of my bookend for the day. And partly to keep me from not leaving something undone. And there are times I go, like this was Wednesday night or Thursday night last week. I came up here, almost didn't come up here. I thought, nope, I'm going to do it. And I came up here and I looked at my emails and went, oh no. I had 2 or 3 emails I had to finish. I need to send out, mainly some follow through stuff.
Okay.
Nobody would have known anything different, but it kept me from starting behind my own 8 ball the next morning.
Okay. Interesting.
Mentor Paul Martinelli, was on the phone with him on a big group call. There's probably 150 people on the call that he taught this lesson. At the end of, and then you can hit *6 to ask a question. And so I came on, he got to me, and I asked him, I asked him what he meant. He offered me talk about difference about if you're frustrated, you need to back up into your confusion. And so he elaborated on that. And then he said, Danny, tell me about your desk. And I have a 4 foot by 9 foot, really nice oak conference table. And standing up in my garage right now. But at the time I operate off of it. And he said, tell me about your desk. He had no idea what I had. And I started telling him about it. And he says, so that's 4 foot by 9 foot. He said, what percentage of your desk is covered? What's it made out of? I told him wood. What kind of wood? I told him about the wood. He said, and you know a lot about that wood. I said, well, I made this thing. And he said, he spent 10 minutes asking questions about it and making it, and, the oil that went into it, the rubbing and the finish. And he said, it's not a beautiful wood. I said, it is. And he says, how much of that beautiful wood can you see right now? And elaborated, what percentage of your desk can you see? I said, oh, about 30%. He says, so you got the rest of it just piled full of stuff. He said, when you come into your office every morning, tell me about how that's situated. And he started, and I said, well, I actually come down my stairs from upstairs and I come around the corner. That's the first thing I see. He said, that can be very confusing, Danny. You got it. So he said, I recommend you clear everything off that desk. When you come in the mornings, you see a completely clean desk every morning. I did it for 30 days, and it was amazing the difference it made. And so every night I cleared off, I'd stack piles. Even if I stacked piles on the floor, I saw behind the desk, I saw a clean desk.
Okay, Danny, very quickly, my best desk story. one of my clients said, please go help my wife. She's having trouble in her business. And she did graphic artist. So I went to her office. She had this huge desk, huge. And it was just heaped with paper. I mean, it was just deep, okay, on top, piles. She didn't have a seat. She took her arm, just swept it all off on the floor.
Who did?
Let's
Who
start.
swept it off?
The client, she took her arm and just took her arm and swept all that paper on her desk on the floor on one side. What does that tell you how that meeting's gonna go?
Not well.
She couldn't, here's how she determined what was in her bank balance. Every 2 years, she changed banks. They told her how much she owed them. Swear to God, that's the state she was in. Absolutely brilliant artist, terrible business person. I mean, that's the most drastic case I've ever seen.
Yeah, that is pretty bad.
Bad.
Good.
There's-
grief. Yeah. So the client herself would just clear it
Just-
off and just,
Yeah, this just what, and her husband, if you went to his office, he's an architect, you open his drawer, the paper clips were lined up in a row. Okay, that was, imagine them married in a house. I mean, what that was like. I mean, literally, he was obsessive and she was just like, oh, I mean, scattered.
that's like a Longhorn and an Aggie married to each other.
Could, yeah, it could be, yeah. But that was one where he just said, help her. Okay, I didn't know what he was talking about. I got there, so, yeah. Well, how many of you use the clean desk theory and the and the full desk? Who uses clean desk theory?
Mine's kind of like mixed. I mean, I have a few notes of people like that, but it's,
Yeah,
but it's not like it's piled.
I mean,
I'm mixed.
okay. How about you, Hardy?
Let me see if I've got it.
I have mine's fairly clean. I have a laptop, my book, I take notes in, and that's it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm pretty much fine.
But it sure
My
makes it,
laptop.
I notice it makes a big difference for me when I do the clean desk. You know, if I leave it with, you know, the piles or whatever, just even in neat piles, it still makes a total difference coming
Doesn't
in.
get
If it's
cluttered.
clean, it makes it much better,
Doesn't get-
much better start to the day.
Yeah,
Don't get cluttered with your gel pens, your camera.
Yeah.
Coffee cup.
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's like, I mean, I've got a laptop and a notepad, Post-it notes and extra monitor, but I mean, that's it. But I mean, it's just always how it worked. But you see people that, you know, their desk is full, they know where things are, but I mean, it's just a different way.
They
to work.
say they know where things are.
There you go, Paul. They say they know.
Yeah,
I
I
remember-
worked, at one time I worked
I-
with the mindset that for too long that a clean desk is a sign of a sick mind. I don't know where I heard that from, but yeah, you know, here was my desk maybe at the time.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
that's not that bad. You see some wood.
And then I decided
Yeah.
I wanted to go to have a stand-up desk. So I actually got a board, set it off to the side there on the left side of that right there, and had books that stacked it up. I had a stand-up desk. I could go and stand up there and work and write and do things. Now
Yeah.
sit down at my computer. But anyway, it was a mess.
How many
And my
monitors?
office is a bit of a mess. That right up wherever that is that you see it over that shoulder. That's stuff that I need to go paperless on stuff that comes in, and I just stack it up there. And at the end of the year, I throw it all away.
So I got a question for you. How many of y'all use multiple?
Desk story, craziest desk story. I took over for this guy and you know, they had moved his office, but they had a huge box of all this paper, right? But I went through the deal and there was stacks like this, but on the top of each stack, one was left corner of credenza, one was right corner of desk. I mean, it's just unreal. There's all
That's
kinds
great.
of stuff in it. It was just not one deal. It's just like, that's how
That's
you
pretty good.
organized. It's like, you got, that's why you're no longer here. We got it.
Yeah, Paul, you were going to say something.
I was gonna say, one thing that helps me be organized, and I don't know, and I can definitely tell a massive difference on how slower my productivity is I have 2 monitors plus my laptop. So basically I have to see 3 screens when I'm working. Do y'all do the same thing? Because I'm telling you, I think it makes a big difference. The times that I have my laptop by itself, I feel like I am suddenly retarded because I feel like I cannot work near as fast because I'm like clicking back and forth places. So.
Totally agree, Paul. I've got an extra monitor. Diana uses 2 extra monitors, but again, it's one of those situations where the way you work with electronic documents, I think it slows you down. Like if I've got a client, have a conference, I want an extra screen clean, but I may have information relevant to the meeting. I don't want it on my screen. So
Yeah,
that, I mean, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just use my laptop screen and one other screen, but yeah.
But that second screen is huge.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it makes a difference.
Big deal.
I mean, I use a day off from time to time, and normally I just take my laptop. The last time I took my extra screen, it's just like the productivity was much better.
Yeah.
It's just like I'll get so used to using that second screen, you feel restricted.
So going on, he said in the evening, he says, I like to cash out, something I've learned from waiting tables. And so he goes on about what they mean by cashing out. Cash out your day's performance compared to your plan for the day. How did it go? What do you need to carry over to tomorrow's plan? What else needs to be added based on what you showed, based on what showed up throughout the day? Anybody have something with that?
I guess I do it a little different. But for me, at the end of my day, I write down my basically to-do list for tomorrow. So and that's kind of what I do most days. There's occasionally days that I'll end up working late and I'll be like, well, it's 8 o'clock because I've been talking to clients all day that I won't do it until the morning. But most of the time I have my day planned out the next day. Of course, we all have phone calls that come in and things like that. But I just try to plan my day out by having everything kind of at least the big things for me, which is who I need to call, who I need to quote, who I need to reshop, which is basically customers we already have that maybe had rate increases or whatever, and who I need to finalize. Those are kind of my 4 categories that I'm looking at that I need to follow up on the next day. So I always look at that each day. I mean, I'll try to have that written down before I stop for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little different system. I have the same thing, but I walk in for the morning. I already know what to attack and what to do based on what I prepared for the prior evening, prior day. So my calendar, my email management, and a short priority checklist, I'm good to go. But I use email a little differently than most people. What's left in my email is to do the next day or to follow up on. There's not 6,000 emails sitting there. Whatever's left in the inbox is the work to get knocked out. Either I'm waiting on something or it's a priority for that.
I think that's a really good point too, because on email, I've seen people with like 6,000 emails. It's like their inbox. I'm like, how do you keep track of where you're at?
Well, you don't. When I worked for that pharmaceutical, first time the CFO let me look over his shoulder, I looked up his email box and unopened emails, over 60,000. Getting ready to go public. I said, okay, here's the deal. You're a sharp guy. You're not in SOX compliance. That's a fail. Get someone to go through, even if it's wrong, and answer those or delete them. And he goes, I didn't even know. And I mean, he's a sharp cookie, but it's like 60,000 unopened. Could be something from FDA. Stop selling your drug. Okay. No one's reading that, and it's just, it was a priority. But that was a big deal. And it took a system about 3 months to clean that up.
I believe it. Go do a bunch of unsubscribing now.
Unsubscribe, delete, quit copying me on emails. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, CFO, you got copied on everything. About to go public. You got copied on what they're going to serve for coffee. I mean, come on, forget it.
If I have an important, I keep everything on Google Calendar, so I have reminders. I also have the task and also have the scheduled thing. But if I get an email that's really important and it needs to be followed up with, I copy it and I go over and create a calendar entry and copy and paste that into the description and the time I'm going to deal with it. So that way, and then I have a notification on it, so it lets me know that I need to deal with this copied email over in Gmail. So, yeah.
Yeah, I use reminders in Gmail and I use
They're
their task
perfect. They
list.
color code them and everything. You know exactly what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I was always one of those guys that, you know, emails I didn't even read. My view has, you know, I see the title and first see the first 2 or 3 lines in my view. So I don't need to read that. Don't need to read that. And I just go on. Now I stopped this January the 1st of 2020 or 21. Yeah, right now 21. That and I was one of those guys, as far as unread emails, I never paid attention to it. And I'd had 40, 50, 60, 70,000, I don't know how many. But I kept the read emails up to date, the ones I wanted to read. And you know, somebody sent me something and it was, or all these string of emails about the same subject. I just didn't worry. I just looked at the latest one. And you know, decided I'm going to clean that week between Christmas and New Year's. I went through and cleaned it all out. Just showed everything is read. And then since then, I've kept it clear. Now I will during the day, if you know, I'm not going to spend my productivity hours in my 8 to 6 or 8 to 5 hours clearing emails, but I'll look at them, I'll clear them down. I'll go down, don't need to, I respond what I need to. But then I'm like you, Tom, I will leave. Now, do you delete your emails totally out of your inbox or do you just unread?
Yeah, I read them in case there's something priority because, for example, I had something today and it could have been sent by email, sent by text. The point is the client got a refund check and didn't know why. And my job is to make sure that that is not a danger sign of something that we don't know we don't know. So yes, I read that. Okay. Now it might be another email like, thank you, Tom, for getting the return file, or thank you. Okay, fine. But I mean, I'm a pretty fast reader because of, I mean, I can attack them pretty quickly.
But the emails
and
you leave in your box, but when you leave an email in there as part of your to-do list, is that just, do you put it back as unread or do you leave it?
No. No, what's in the inbox of Google is to do immediately, okay, or as soon as possible. If I've read something and act on it, I put it in a folder, and I know that I got folders, and I'm good to go. But again, you know, if I look at it and there's 5 emails when I start the morning, I need to act on those or to ask for information. That's kind of my way to sort. It saved me, Danny, hundreds, probably thousands of hours. Yeah.
And you can tag those too in the inbox with check marks, questions, stars if you want. But I move everything. I'm like Tom, when I'm done dealing with it, it goes into a folder. I save every stinking email from a client and put it in a folder. And I'm going through an unsubscribe thing right now. I'm loving it, man. I'm going back to stuff I have stuff I don't need anymore. I'm unsubscribing like heck. I love it.
I'll use my inbox unread emails as my, and I flag emails. Okay, I put a little red flag on it, and I sort through that a couple times a day. But I don't delete it, and I don't have, like you guys do, I don't have clients like y'all do. Well, moving on, he talks more about rhythms and you know, getting to rhythm, finding your groove. As I read this, you know, last summer, listened to it last summer, then read it during the I think fall and then reading it again. But I've, you know, picked some of this stuff up from some other people, and you know, how much better in a groove and a rhythm that I've got now than I had you know, a few years ago. Says here, in the rhythms of life, when people get started in a new endeavor, they almost always overdo it. He says, but you need to find a program that you can absolutely positively do in the long term without renegotiation. I don't want you thinking of the rhythms you can do for this week, month, or even the next 90 days. I want you to think about what you can do for the rest of your life. Power of consistency. It's more of the same thing in essence. Even good, passionate, and ambitious people with good intentions can fall short when it comes to consistency. But it's a powerful tool you can use to launch the flight towards your goals. Just got through reading it. Go ahead, Hardy.
So awesome. The only thing this makes me think of is life is a struggle. You know, that if you sum it up, life's a struggle. And figuring out how to work in between all that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what you're saying there feeds into what I was about to say. I just finished listening. Actually, I've read about 3/4 of it and have listened to it back and forth over the last couple of weeks. And it's a book about the Sabbath, about resting in God. And this an author, Martin Buchanan, and he says that people that don't practice the Sabbath well, and he's not necessarily talking just about having, a day off, a true day off once a week. But people that don't know how to practice resting in God during the week, even when and he's primarily talking about pastors and people in ministry that seem to take sabbaticals. He said people that take sabbaticals that don't know how to practice the Sabbath can't do sabbaticals well at all. They come back just as stressed out as when they left. Thought that was interesting, and something. All this made me think about that. Yeah, he said it's far easier and requires a lot less energy to take off once and maintain a regular speed, even as slower than most everyone else along the way.
And boy, Danny, this comes back to the type of personality you identify yourself as, of how you plug into these things, because I'm pretty much go, go, go. So that would be, a lot of these things would be problems for me. Unless I stay really focused, really have to implant my brain. This has to be done. This has to be done. Right.
Yeah. Let's go to the summary action steps again. Build your bookend morning and evening routine. He promotes his morning routine blueprint that he's got. List 3 areas of your life in which you are not consistent enough. What's that consistency cost you? Make a declaration to stay steadfast in your new commitment to consistency. On your rhythm register, write down a half dozen key behaviors relevant to your new goals. These should be behaviors you want to establish a rhythm with and eventually create the momentum to BigMo. Guys, that's all I've got for today. Any parting comments?
Has anyone got anything they've done in particular to help keep your momentum you think has been most helpful for you? I mean, something stand out like it's just worked over and over for you.
Coming to the mastermind. Staying disciplined to come here.
Good.
Yeah, I've got a boot camp, my Stop Wasting Handshake boot camp that starts tomorrow. I think Hardy went through it a few years ago. And I tried it different times with, twice a week, 3 times a week. Finally, I did, different times. It's, I've got 15 people signed up for it. We'll see how many
Wow.
actually show up this week, but I sent a notice out that you don't have to call in every call, though I know a few people that I think Hardy was on every call. So I have an 8 o'clock call every day, Monday through Friday, and a 4:30 call. 8 o'clock, it's what are you going to do today? 4:30, here's what I did do today. And around meeting people and following through, meeting people and following through, people and how to follow through, keep going through. And I think it takes that consistency of every day. And that if you miss a day, you do have tomorrow. You don't want to call in the morning, don't get right out of bed. Call in at the end of the day. So anyway, it just having that rhythm. It's a lot of it to finally get into a rhythm.
Okay. Thank you.